Okay, so here we go. The blend tree workflow. Coming back over here. Let's go ahead and do some housekeeping on our animations first. So walking, right? This is going to be, if you want to have walk to run transition, this will work. If you're just going to have run, then the other workflow is simpler and less complicated. The thing to know about the animations is that both the walk and the run should start with the same foot. Meaning if you started with the left foot forward, start with the left foot forward on both the walk and the run. That'll help keep the transitions in sync and making sense. So here we go. I'm going to name all of these and set them to loop and apply. And then here we go. This is going to be run and loop and apply and jump. And here we go, and loop, although that, yeah, we're just going to say apply for now. And then the idle, let's name this, and loop and apply. There we go. All of them are in place. Okay, now we're going to start it off with the idle, and I'll put it up here underneath the player. There we go. Let's get this worked out here. And I'm going to go to orthographic view to place things precisely, and probably come here to the player, turn off the mesh renderer so I can see what I'm doing. Come down here to idle. If you control click, you can see them both at the same time. And so this needs to come down to there. That's just about right, maybe a little higher. That's good. Okay, and let's just test and make sure that it sits on the ground. A little bit lower. And let's get out orthographic. There we go. And that looks good. And if we come over here and we're going to move around. That's good. Let's just do one thing. And we are moving around right about. There we go. That's good. Okay. Now, let's do a few things here. Check in with the animator. I'm going to dock this in between for now so I can see what I'm doing. Come back here and rename this to player animations. There we go. So that's correct. And then over here, we don't have any animation happening on this yet. And so in the idle, grab this animation clip and drag it onto the animator, and this is just a shorthand for creating the animator with the correct configuration. And so now if we click on that, we see that we have what we should recognize as a fairly typical Animator setup. And now let's go back to the player and do the one piece of configuration that needs to happen over here is this one, is that the character animator field needs to be populated with the correct game object. I'm going to save and drag this to here. Okay, so without this, you're not going to get any of the information from the character controller into the animator. Okay, good. Now we're there. Let's grab the information that we're going to need under parameters here. There we go. And so let's make a new float with speed. There we go. And let's make a new bool, grounded, capital G. And then we'll save. And if we hit play, we should see those updating. So again, just checking every step along the way to make sure this is working. And we are grounded, and we are getting speed. If we stop, it goes down. And if we jump, we are not grounded, grounded. not grounded, grounded. Excellent. We are receiving information in the Animator. Great. Now, time for blend tree. Right click, add new blend tree. There we go. And now let's double click in here to set up said blend tree. And you can't drag the things into the blend tree. You have to configure it over here. And so we want the 1D blend tree, set the speed. We're going to hit plus and say add motion field. And I'm going to do that 3 times right now because we're going to have 3. And then we'll bring in our idle. And then we'll bring in our walk. And then we'll bring in our run. There we go. Okay. And just once again over here, this is the speed that the animation will play. And this is the value at the speed parameter that will transition. And so that's what this graph is showing you up here, is that we are blending or fading from the first one to the second one to the third one at these values. And so if I were to, you'll notice you can't change those because the default is that it'll automate these thresholds. But you see these numbers are 0, 0.5, and 1, whereas our speed, these are reading from the speed parameter. And so if we just sort of look at what our speed parameter is, when we're moving at speed, when we're moving, you know, with the default settings, right? I haven't changed any of the settings on the character. Controller, our max speed is 8. And so that probably doesn't make much sense to have this be to 1. And so I'm going to change these by saying, don't automate this. Let me have control. And so over here, I can come in and set these to maybe 2. And how about 6? And you see that my visualization of this up here shifts, right? Because these two are now closer together and these two are further apart. Let's change this to 2. There we go. And so now, if I were to look at this, there we go. And if I start running around, there we go. We're getting the changes in value, and we see that this is updating here. How come we're not seeing it? Because we're not actually getting into the blend tree. We have to come back over here, back up to the base layer. Okay, and we just go to idle. It's going to be out of here. We want our default to be the blend tree. So we're going to set this as the layer default. This can just go away. And so when we start, we'll immediately enter into the blend tree, and the speed will start controlling the animations. And so let's look over here. It's good. We don't seem to be getting into the run. Why not? What's our value here? Let's look at the blend tree. Oh, I think I put these in the wrong order. Let's look at the blend tree over here. Yeah, so I was running before I was walking. The saying says that's incorrect. There we go. Let's walk before we can run. And now, because we were transitioning, but we weren't transitioning to run, we were just transitioning. There we go. And so the speed, it's pretty responsive right now. And so it is fading, but it's just happening very, very quickly. If we want to zoom in a little bit, I'm going to change the camera. This doesn't have the third-person camera in it. We're just setting up the test here. And so if you want to look a little bit closer, you know, move closer to the character here, maybe right about here. And if you want to change where the camera is, select the camera and do Control-Shift-F. That's the Control-Alt-0 of Unity to move the camera to where the view is in the scene. That's, again, Control-Shift-F. Write that one down. Now, there we go. Okay, so it's happening, it's just happening quickly. Let's go ahead and come back to the character controller. And if you want to see, so balancing those transition values is the first adjustment to make. The other adjustment to make over here under the top player character controller controls. One of the ones here that makes a big difference is the speed change rate. Okay, so this is how quickly the character accelerates. At 10, it's pretty quick, very almost instantaneous. If I put it down at 1, which probably isn't like a value you want for the game, but you can sort of see, there we go. Now we transition clearly from walking to running. Okay, good. And the jump is working, but we don't have any jump animation in there yet. Okay, if I don't want this cube to show up anymore, let's go ahead and we can just disable that. Okay, doing good. So far, so good. Let's look at this. Excellent. Yeah, I might move that one further up, maybe 3. Okay, see how it works for your character. Okay, that's good. And so now we want our jump in there. Come back up here, and we need to bring the jump in. And so I'm going to grab jump down here and drag this in. It's not going to go in the blend tree. And we want to just be able to jump from any of these states into our jump. And so conveniently, we want to be able to go from walk or run or idle into jump. And we've got this that does it for us right there, this any state. And so I'm going to put this down here, and it just allows us to use the jump to interrupt the blend tree. We're going to transition from here. Yeah. Let's see if I can click on things. There we go, to there. Then we're going to transition from here to there. And now we manage the transitions. Here, same thing when we jump. And so our is grounded becomes false. Make sure it does not have an exit time. And then over here, again, our is grounded becomes true. Okay, and again, don't play the whole thing. Okay, that's good. One other piece of the pie here is that, here, let me show you what happens now. Keep your eye on the animator. Is that the any state is really powerful, but when you're using it here, there we go. You see what happens when I press jump, it goes, we're interrupting it, but we're interrupting it repeatedly because we sort of stay in a different state. And so this is like a re-triggering issue. And you can get around this. For this transition, the one that goes into jump, we need to unfold and of course check one more box here under settings, and say can transition to self. No, don't do that. So that we can't keep looping while we're in the air. So now if we do it, there we go. And so now if I were to do this, let's look. Let's see, did one of these not have exit time checked? That's good. Blend tree is good. Jump is good. No, that's all good. Here we go. There we go. So we're transitioning into the jump. And so now we've got to maybe tune this a bit. And so first of all, with the jump animation, let's look at it. I'm going to select it here and look at it here. There we go. Let's I'm going to select it here so I can edit it. And if we just look at the jump animation, and jump. So, like there's a big period of time in this one where it's getting ready. And that's just not going to work with the game. Think about how unresponsive that would feel pressing the jump button. So here, I'm going to trim off and maybe have it start right about there. And then let's look at the end. And there. That's maybe where I want to end. All right, so just sort of trimming this, depending on how much you animated there, you may have to trim more or less. And that's good. And so make sure that I apply those changes. Okay, and so now if I look back over here, let's look at this in full screen so we can see a little bit more of what's going on. Play maximized, there we go. And if we were to look at the jump now, that's good. So cleaning up the entry and exit points. The transition back when I hit the ground is happening really quickly, maybe a little bit too quickly. And so how do I adjust that? That is going to be this timing. And so here, this can be a little bit confusing in that the size of this is the main parameter to be concerned with here. Okay, this is a nice visualization of what's happening conceptually, but I believe the timeline here is a little bit confusing. As soon as you hit the ground, you're in this zone right here, the one that I have the square around. You're not starting here, and so there's not like a delay and then transitions. It's just simply trying to show you how this would work. It's just not a super clear visualization as to like what's actually happening. And so if a transition is happening too fast, you simply need to make this area bigger. If it's happening too slow, you need to make this area smaller. And so I'm going to do this so that we take a little bit longer to come out of the jump. And let's see how that looks. So here I've made the transition so long that it's kind of overriding, it's going over the end of the animation. So then we're going into that loop. And so in this case, the way I have everything set up, we probably don't want to loop the jump. And so down here, I'm going to make sure that my jump settings don't say loop. And let's see how that looks a little bit better. Make sure I apply because that's on the asset. And let's look one more time. That gives us a little bit longer transition back into walking. There we go. Now again, I have that, yeah, that's probably just too long at this point. So we need to, because it's definitely sliding when it lands. And so that's too much. If you look at the, sometimes this is normalized, right? And so it shows you the entire length of the blend tree. And so even the, as you switch from transition to transition, the amount of time on this timeline is just confusing. So it's the relative size here. I think a better way to make decisions here is to look at this transition duration, which is in seconds, okay? So there's this 0.25, here's this 0.6. That's almost, you know, not almost 1 second. It's 0.67, that's 7. It's almost 3/4 of a second, right? Too long. Let's say 0.3. There we go. So this is probably a better metric versus this, because the size of this, even the absolute size of it is not going to be helpful, because this is being normalized based on how long these other animations are, so they can show you an entire block. So this is the more accurate. Yeah, and so now we transition back in a way. And again, I have the transition, the speed transition still real low, which is down here, here. Oh, I set that during play mode, so we're okay there. Let's put it 5 maybe, that'll be good. And then, there we go. Nice. Okay, that's working. There we go. Blend tree workflow working this time. All right, everybody. All right.